Good afternoon. At this time, I will call the May 15th, 2023 County Council meeting to order. If I can have everyone come to order. I think it's because people were talking. We welcome you here tonight. I welcome you to the York County Council meeting, May 15th, 2023 County Council meeting. At this time, I'll recognize Tommy Adkins, the Honorable Tommy Adkins from District 3, who will lead us in invocation and Pledge of Allegiance.
Let's pray. Dear gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for letting us gather here tonight. I pray that you give us wisdom and guidance in everything that we do. Be with everyone on the trip home. May you have all the power and the glory. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We do not have any oath of office tonight. We do have an appearance that's on our agenda. We have an annual presentation from Keep York County Beautiful, if they are here and ready to proceed.
Yes, indeed. Madam Chairwoman, members of the council, thank you so much for your time and for the opportunity to be a representative of our beautiful organization. And let's go ahead and get started. As you can tell, this is an all-volunteer board. Our vision is to be a well-educated, empowered community committed to beautifying York County through a diverse range of litter prevention, recycling, and environmental solutions. On behalf of, not working. Thank you. Next slide, please. On behalf of Keep York County Beautiful, we appreciate the opportunity to celebrate our 13th anniversary and would like to thank you all, the members of the council, the York County Management, the York County Public Works with Mr. Eric Reckett, Director, and Ryan Blanc, our Assistant Director, the York County Solid Waste Collection and Recycling Administrative staff, and presently we have 10 of the 14 board seats full. Keep York County Beautiful is not funded through the county budget, but rather our operating budget is funded through grants from outside entities. The last fiscal year, we secured about $10,000. In addition, board volunteers worked 475 hours, valued at over $15,000. The grants that Keep York County Beautiful has earned to date is more than $190,000. In the previous year, KYCB received the Keep York County Beautiful President's Circle Recognition Award, and along with the Keep South Carolina Beautiful Association Recognition Award as well. KYCB conducts the Keep Your America Beautiful Litter Index annually, and the tool is used to visually assess the amount of litter present in our community. The scale is ranged from 1 to 4, with 1 being minimal and 4 being extremely littered. Every 5 years, we will begin a fresh set of roads to examine, and this year we will be doing that in June. Last year, we had a score of 1.36. The Keep York County Beautiful Board is not only a planning board, but we're also a hands-on working board who honestly love where we live. York County residents are encouraged to volunteer with us. The KYCB projects focused are waste reduction and recycling, litter prevention, beautification, and outreach education. The Waste Reduction and Recycling Committee promotes recycling and waste reduction by promoting the new Recycled Right York County mobile app and the on-the-go recycling container loan program. The committee has also reached out to 90 multifamily housing locations to encourage residents to recycle at the county collection and recycling centers by offering bins and tote bags. We have also just recently had an Earth Day birthday celebration, and that event was held at the York County Material Recovery Facility and was attended by 1,000 people this year. Our Litter Prevention and Beautification Committee had projects and programs such as the Polar Bear Litter Pickup Partnership with Rock Hill Clean and Green, whereas participants received free cleanup supplies and each group could choose to receive 5 reusable travel mugs or 5 long sleeve t-shirts. KYCB numbers are not included with the Rock Hill Clean and Green we had 63 cleanups with 698 volunteers, 10,202 pounds of trash, which equates to 5.10 tons of litter picked up in that occasion. We also have had the spring litter cleanup program, which is still ongoing, from March 20th until June 16th. KYCB has offered free cleanup supplies, bag collections, and 5 short sleeve t-shirts. In addition to the seasonal programs, there are 11 volunteer litter commitment programs for individuals, groups, and churches and businesses such as Adopt a County Road, the Litter Challenge, and Adopt Your Spot. It's your business. This committee is in the process of reviewing applications for a mini-grant program. We've received grant funding to assist community organizations in funding projects that promote beautifications in areas such as right-of-ways, medians, building exteriors, parks or other natural areas in order to improve the York County environment. And there's some beautiful photos of those grant, if you will, the grant, those are for, I'm doing good today. Those recipients of the mini grants. We also have an outreach and education committee, which we have programs such as Dr. T and Less Litter. Presentations typically held assembly style were offered via YouTube this year in the format of a movie and a quiz. KYCB has received applications so far. We can provide 4 $500 high school scholarships for York County high school seniors. The board also helped with the outreach by volunteering through the sharing of social media posts on personal pages and on group pages, helping with Earth Day birthday, and the household hazardous materials and document shredding events, which you'll see the photos of it as well. But what is the one common denominator about litter in the county, state, and the country? Humans cause it. Did you know that unsecured loads are against the law, can be dangerous, and are the greatest source of litter in the county and around collection centers? In an effort to provide outreach and understanding about the sources of litter, the board helps collection and recycling with tarp distributions. You can follow us, the Keep York County Beautiful Committee, on social media. You can download the Recycle Right York County app. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. And in conclusion, we would love for businesses, residents, organizations, and schools to support our mission to help keep our county beautiful and clean. Thank you so much for the opportunity to present before you. And on behalf of the Keep York County Beautiful Committee, we thank you for your time and for this evening.
Thank you, sir, and we appreciate all the good work that Keep York County Beautiful does. I would ask one question. The tarp distribution, is there a specific location that folks can go to pick that up?
We distribute those when we receive them from Palmetto Pride, and they'll be at all of the collection recycling centers.
So they can request them at the recycling center?
And they'll be offered, the attendants will offer them
Thank you,
whenever they're
Leslie.
available. And I'm sorry about the font issues on the PowerPoint. I don't know what's going on with that. It looked good when I sent it over, so if you trust me on that. Karen, can I blame you? I'm not gonna blame you. It's totally my fault. I don't know what that's about. Thank you. You have any other questions?
Any other questions from
I
you?
just want to thank you. I mean, the work that y'all are doing and the participation from the public has been incredible. So great work. Very good. Excellent.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Thank you very much. We move now to our public forum session of our county agenda, and this is an opportunity that council considers very important, where we get to hear from constituents. And the way that we do this, because there's an agenda that we have to do business on, but we hear from our citizens first, and we allow you all to sign up for 2-minute increments, and we allow the first 15 folks that get here and who have something on their mind that they want to address, that they can bring that up. Now, if we have a public hearing item, you aren't limited, but there's no public hearings tonight. But when it comes to the public forum session, this gives our community an opportunity to present information to the council. We don't interact with you. We don't answer questions. We're here to listen and to listen to the concerns. We do ask that anyone who speaks, that you do so in a calm and respectful manner, that you not have any personal attacks, this is all of that list for anyone who signed up on that list, if you'll adhere to those requirements. I have noted that there are a number of folks here who signed up for York County Library discussion, and you're more than welcome and free to come up here and speak on that. I do want to make sure that you all know that that council doesn't decide what goes on the shelves at the library. And that is done by the director of the library and the library board of trustees. And there is no motion or other action item pending tonight on the library issue, with the exception of hearing from an individual who signed up at the concerned citizen stage. So I did want you all to be aware of that, but you're more than free to come up and speak. When I call your name, a couple of things. When I call your name, if you'll come up and please state your name and address first, and then if you will pay attention to the screen will let you know when you get to a warning, when you get close to your 2 minutes, and then it'll start flashing red. If you can please cut your comments off so that I don't have to at the red mark, I would very much appreciate that. Thank you. First individual who signed up, Diana Simone, and I'm sorry if some of this handwriting I can read and some I can't.
Diana Simone, 375 Starlight Drive, Fort Mill. My name is Diana Simone. I'm a resident of York County and here to speak about books in our libraries. I'm a former investigative journalist and now president of the Born to Fly Project to Stop Child Trafficking, which works in 65 countries, reaching kids before the traffickers do. I speak to you tonight as someone who has fought trafficking for 2 decades in that time. I've been to many seminars. One of the most pivotal was called Porn Harms, about the connection between trafficking and pornography. It opened with a neurologist talking about how addictive porn is, way above crack cocaine, and how the brain is actually pliable and will change according to what is put into it. Most people think trafficked children are abducted, but they're not. Traffickers don't snatch kids or they'd run. They recruit them and groom them so that kids are bonded to them and won't leave. The Stockholm Syndrome. One of the ways that traffickers groom kids is with pornography. They use it to normalize behavior that any child instinctively knows is wrong, neuroplasticity. If I stood outside a library and showed a child a picture of a nude man, someone would call Sheriff Tolson and I would be arrested because it's inappropriate behavior when children are around. It's not a First Amendment issue, it's sexually inappropriate. It's porn, it's a crime against children. So if it's a crime outside the wall of a library, it's a crime inside the wall also. I ask you that we would have these books placed elsewhere in the library, not in the children's section. It's a good compromise for everyone. And I end with a question: how long will we allow our children to be the currency of darkness?
Thank you, ma'am. Dave Phelps. If we could, and it's one of those jobs that as chair I hate doing, but if we could keep the applause, if we could refrain from doing that so we can move forward with the agenda. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay, I'm Dave Phelps, and I live at 8020 Huber Lane, Fort Mill, South Carolina. I have empathy for people who feel trapped in a body of the wrong gender. And I've personally known two professional men who I re-identified as women. They were respected work colleagues who had sired children. I can't imagine what they were wrestling with. It's clear that transgenderism has become much more prominent in our society today. It is being actively promoted rather than being sensitively recognized. It has become a movement. My big concern is when this movement seeks to influence children and young adults, our citizens who are most susceptible to trendy ideas or ideas that present themselves as being able to release them into something better or free them from their current difficulties. It is for this reason that I'm totally opposed to putting transgender material, or indeed any sexually deviant material, in the children, young adult section of our public libraries. This should be a matter of common sense, but sadly, common sense seems to be an outdated concept. It's clear to me from what I read, hear, and observe that there are several agendas behind this drive to push transgenderism on our children and young people, and none of them are good. They're not good for the young people or our society. I therefore urge that these harmful books are removed from the children, young adult section of our libraries, our public libraries, as quickly, totally, and permanently. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Larry Byrd.
Yes, good evening. I'm Larry Byrd, 375 Starlight Drive, Fort Mill. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak tonight. First of all, I'd like to request that the council support and ensure books that are unsuitable for children be moved from the children's section of York County Libraries to the adult shelves. This includes books that confuse children about their gender, self-identity, and also taking away their innocence at a very, very, very young age. The increasing suicide rate among young children is alarming, as well as depression, drug usage, and hopelessness in our youth is alarming. It really bothers, this society has got a lot to do. How many folks in here have children or grandchildren? I know you can't answer that question, but think about that. Suicide, drug usage, depression, and hopelessness among our youth. And that is a problem that is prevalent in this country. Again, I ask you as a council to use your key elected positions of authority to protect our children by requiring the public libraries in York County move the inappropriate books for children from the children's section to the adult section so that parents can give these books to their children if they choose to do so. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Valerie Koski.
Hi, I'm Valerie Koski. I live at 524 Fair Oaks Drive in Fort Mill, District 66. And I have one question for all of y'all, for us as a community. Are we willing to risk that these words are not true? Jesus said it would be better for anyone to have a large millstone hung around their necks and to be thrown into the depths of the sea than to hurt one of these little ones.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're
Are
welcome.
you wanting, do you have anything further?
Are we willing to risk as a community that these words are not true?
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Tarly Middleton.
Hello, my name is Tenley Middleton,
I'm sorry.
702 Maple Hill Drive, Fort Mill, South Carolina. Good evening, my name is Tenley Middleton. I received my Master's of Library and Information Science from the University of South Carolina in 2008. I am a member of the American Library Association and the American Association of School Librarians. I am a board member of the South Carolina Association of School Librarians. I am a school librarian in and a resident of York County. As librarians, we strive to have spaces and collections that are inclusive of everyone. Our collections reflect and celebrate the diversity of the human experience. Choosing to remove, segregate, or restrict access to books that accurately reflect that experience does library patrons a disservice. They deserve access to reading materials that are high quality, age relevant, and engaging. Additionally, reading helps people develop empathy. Library collections need to provide every opportunity to grow lifelong learners. Librarians have specialized degrees to select books to do just that. We all want York County residents to be informed citizens, and books are an important part of that goal. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Michael Shanowski.
Hi, I'm Michael Shanowski, 212 Pebble Creek Crossing, Fort Mill. My wife and I are grandparents of two young boys, two adorable young boys, ages 7 and 4. We've got pictures of them hanging on our refrigerator door, and some of the things that they're doing at their age. Catching snowflakes on their tongues, chasing bubbles from a bubble machine, kicking soccer balls, playing baseball, and just having innocent fun. They love to read and have books read to them. However, those books should also be innocent for their young minds. Books that spark their imagination are good, provided they are age appropriate. These young children, not only ours included, but everyone else's, do not and should not be exposed to sexually explicit content that they are not old enough or mature enough to comprehend in a way that can cause much confusion and misunderstanding for their innocent lives. Please consider your own children and grandchildren, and thank you for your time in listening to our plea for wisdom when making these critical decisions.
Thank you, sir. Catherine Gutteridge.
Hi, I'm Catherine Gutteridge. I live at 2164 Hanging Rock Road, Fort Mill, South Carolina. I'm a resident of Fort Mill, a parent to a 7th and 4th grader, and I am here today to speak against the proposal to move certain children's books from the children's section, where they belong, to the adult section of our public libraries. As someone who values free speech, this proposal represents a dangerous and misguided attempt at censorship. As responsible adults and community leaders, we have a duty to promote intellectual freedom and encourage the free exchange of ideas. We must not let our personal beliefs or biases interfere and influence what materials are available to the whole public. Our library should be a place where people of all ages can come to learn, explore, and discover new ideas without fear of censorship. Our libraries already have policies in place that inform parents on how to use the library with their children. The library card policy states, "It is the right and responsibility of the parent or legal guardian signing for the juvenile's library card to determine what is appropriate for their child to check out. It does not state that a parent can decide what is freely available for other people's children." There seems to be a misuse or misconception on what is considered sexually explicit. Just because a book contains LGBTQ+ characters or relationships, it does not make it sexually explicit. In the same way, a book that contains cisgender or heterosexual characters or relationships is not sexually explicit. In fact, these books are important for our children to see the diversity that exists within themselves and in the wider world. In conclusion, I urge you to reject the proposal to move certain books from the children's section to the adult section. Let us instead focus on creating a welcoming and inclusive environment for all, where free speech and intellectual freedom are celebrated and censorship is not tolerated. And I have a segment of our petition here. The overall petition had 1,300 signatures. We have over 630 just from York County.
Thank you, ma'am. If
So
you,
I'll
you can
email
pass that to our clerk.
Yeah, thank you.
Carrie Gutzwiller Love.
Hello, my name is Carrie Gutzwiller Love. I am a mother of 2 and a business owner at 584 Cranbourne Chase in Fort Mill, South Carolina. I am speaking on behalf of resident Lacey Lane, who is unable to attend tonight due to illness. These are her words. I am a mother of 2 and an elementary school counselor of 14 years residing in Fort Mill, South Carolina. I am here tonight to ask that you allow our professional librarians to be able to make decisions about what books to include on the shelves of our public libraries in the locations that they deem most appropriate based on their expertise and without interference from county council members. As a parent and an educator, I value and appreciate the important role that libraries play in supporting education and literacy for all children and families that take advantage of their amazing services. Our public libraries should be stocked with inclusive offerings that provide the opportunity to introduce children, teens, and adults to a wide range of diverse stories that reflect different perspectives and experiences, both theirs and others. I feel strongly that any attempt to remove, relocate, require a special label, or in any way impede access to any book in our York County libraries will further marginalize the children, teens, and adults who are members of the LGBTQ+ community here in York County. Such attempts would send a dangerous message that certain ideas and identities are not welcome in our public spaces. Books containing information about gender and sexuality are not a specific genre or an agenda of any kind. Rather, these concepts are simply part of everyday life for all of us. Please do not be persuaded by Councilmember Tom Audette and the loud minority of community members who make ignorant demands based on their personal beliefs and opinions. If they do not want their children to read certain books, it is their parental responsibility to help their children and teens select books that align to their personal ideology. It's not their right to remove books from the shelves that my children can easily access.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you for your time.
I will say, calling out individuals, please refrain from doing that since we don't give the opportunity for folks to speak out against that. Denise Bach.
Denise Bach, 254 Hammond Road, Fort Mill. I've got two quick issues. The first one's on the sexually explicit books in the library. I'm for the First Amendment, but I'm in protecting speech, but I'm also for protecting our children from inappropriate materials. There's got to be a place for public decency in protecting our children in the libraries. We're not asking for book burning, but just putting inappropriate books in the adult section. If parents want that kind of material for the children, they can check the book out for their children and bring it home. We need to be able to let children browse the children's section without having inappropriate materials put in their path, contrary to what parents want for their children. My other issue is the solar panel plant that the community development is trying to shove down our throats in Fort Mill. And I just wanted to remind you that we have not forgotten that issue. I know you've had emails come your way, and when I see it on the agenda, there will be a tsunami of signatures on petitions. So I wanted you to be aware and ask you to please vote no on that. We don't want it fouling up our traffic, using 1.25 million gallons of our water resources in a day, which who gets the water when there's a drought? And we don't want potentially dangerous chemicals in our environment, especially next to potential school sites. So just wanted to remind you, I would really appreciate you voting no, and you will be hearing from me once this comes up on the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Lori Moore.
Good evening. I'm Lori Moore, and my address is 1437 Broadcloth Street, Fort Mill. And I'm here to speak about the York County Libraries and the inappropriate books that children have access to. I think that they should be moved into the adult section, so it's more at the discretion of the parents of the children what they have access to, especially when they're inappropriate or sexually explicit. And just for an example, I just read about a case of a 6-year-old girl, first grader, getting assaulted by 6-year-old boys in her class. It was recorded on an iPad, and it just, things like that should not happen. It did not say that the boys learned the acts, sexual acts from books that they got in their school, but it can be used as an avenue in situations like this. So why should we implement something that could cause a situation like this, lead to it, and not protect the children? If we accept this, this puts children at risk instead of protecting them. Inclusion does not equal protection. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Tom Bach.
Good evening. Tom Bach, 254 Hammond Road in Fort Mill. I echo everybody that said about the sexually explicit material being moved to grown parents and grown adults. We didn't even, when I was going through school, we didn't even get books like that until we got into high school with our health classes. Even today, Barnes & Noble, you go through Barnes & Noble, they do not have these type of books, sexually explicit books, in the children's section, because I've been through it. I've been through several Barnes and Nobles and other bookstores. So why would we want to put them in public libraries? This issue, if it comes up and these books do not get moved to more adult area, it'll affect our children both physically and mentally for years to come. We already have enough information out there for our children to digest. Why would you want to add something like this to it? So remember, they're just children. They're learning basics. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Katie Rutland.
Good evening. My name is Katie Rutland, and I live at 12,005 Forest Home Drive. I'm a wife. I'm a mother of 3 boys. I am a Christian. I've been a member of this community for more than 20 years. My professional background is in journalism, and one of my favorite newsroom sayings has always been trust but verify. So after I listened to some disturbing comments about objectionable books in the children's section a few weeks ago, I did what any reasonable person would do, and I went to go check it out for myself. I went to the Fort Mill branch of the county library, and there I found a book that was discussed in detail at the previous council meeting called Pink, Blue, and You on the shelf. And I really want to tell you guys, this book helped me guide my children on a really meaningful two-way conversation about gender identity, about how to respectfully engage with and befriend members of the transgender community. And I'm so grateful for the easy access of the book and the opportunity to launch what I know will be an ongoing topic of conversation in my home. On this library shelf with Pink, Blue, and You was a beautiful collection of children's literature to help them understand really big ideas. There were books about being an anti-racist. There were books about the civil rights movement, about democracy, about strong Muslim women. It occurred to me that nearly this entire section of books has been seen as a dangerous topic at some point in history because they bring attention to marginalized groups and ideas both past and present. Segregating books about gender identity will create an unnecessary and inequitable barrier to access for citizens in this county. Current objections to inclusive books have failed to provide any evidence that these books on gender identity are explicit or harmful to anyone, and therefore requests to segregate them should be recognized merely as an attempt to divide instead of unite. One of the books that was requested be added as a foil to some of these gender identity books is called She is She, which includes an illustration of a person holding a picket sign with the phrase #EndAbortion on it. And it's curious to me that books about gender identity are seen as not okay, but abortion is.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thanks so much.
Frank Hubany.
Frank Hubany, 411 Tayberry Lane, Fort Mill. Well, in the Fort Mill Library, I noticed a sign warning adults who entered the children's section that the library wanted to promote a safe place for children. However, I also heard that the library provides for these same children access to sexually inappropriate material in that same supposedly safe area. I am here to request that all such material be relocated to the adult section. Children should not have access to such material without parental guidance. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Sylvie Carey.
My name is Sylvie Carey. I live at 124 Charlotte Street in York, South Carolina. I just feel like when I grew up, I was confused about a lot of things in the 60s and 70s, and it was through books and TV and movies. And I had a lot of confusion. I'm 64 now, but this has been going on for a long time. And I wish that I had not been exposed to that. I've had to do a lot of inner healing. I know as a child, I would not have had access to things that adults provided to me, or that were provided to children. to view and to read. And I just ask, as someone who's had to deal with this most of my life, that you just think about the individual children. If their parents want to expose that to them, that's their choice, but just, children are innocent, let them stay that way. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Inga, Carey?
Hi, my name is Inga Carey. I'm at 705 Atherton Way in Rock Hill. I'm a resident and I'm a teacher in York County. I wanted to speak regarding the potential censorship of our York County libraries, and I strongly oppose any such measures. I respect parents' or guardians' rights to monitor their child's literature intake. I don't want them to monitor mine. As a teacher, I encourage parents and guardians to be involved in their child's reading and learning. It's such a wonderful partnership, and we need more of that. We need more of that in our community. Students need us to work together, but that can't happen if groups start to limit our literature options. We need to trust the librarians who are trained professionals in how books are categorized and placed in our libraries. Diversity is a wonderful part of our world, and we need to show representation. This does not mean that there is porn or non-age appropriate books in our libraries. LGBTQIA books, plus books, are not explicit or pornographic in general. Descriptions of genitalia or sexual acts should be placed in the adult area, whether it's a homosexual couple, any sort of transgender couple, or even heterosexual couples. Groups with other political or religious agendas need to stop. If they are truly concerned about suicide rates, then they would choose acceptance instead of denying other people's existence. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. That does conclude our public forum session. I do want to note that since the entire 15 folks who first signed up to speak on this spoke on the library issue, it's important to me that your comments make it to the right body that makes decisions on this, and that's not the council. So the Board of Trustees and the Director of the library are the ones who decide where books are located in the library. I believe they have a meeting this week. I encourage you to look at their agenda. I don't know if they allow public comment or if they allow you to send your emails, but if you want your comments heard by the entity that actually makes those decisions, that is the Library Board of Trustees, and I want to make sure that your comments make it to the right place. Additionally, I want to make sure that folks understand that there's no motion, resolution, or other action pending before council to defund the library. I want to make sure that that was clear as well. So that does conclude our public forum session. We do appreciate the community coming out and speaking. It's always good to see so many folks come out. We're going to move now to our consent agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, consent agenda is passed. We move now to, we do not have any public hearings tonight, but we do move to our first item in old business. Council to consider approving second reading of an ordinance to amend the code of the County of York, South Carolina, Chapter 51.05, Water and Sewer Rates and Charges, Terms and Conditions of Service, Sections B2 and B10, in order to amend the water rate schedule and sewer rate schedule and to provide for matters related thereto. If we want to let folks clear out before, or do we have a motion? Can you turn your mic on?
The mic's on. Approve for discussion.
We have a motion and a second. We are now in discussion, Mr. Roddy.
I wanted to bring this to everyone's attention that these rate increases that we're seeing is not originating with York County. These are being brought to us, or I should say forced on us by the city of Rock Hill, who we purchase water from and serve as a pass-through to those we serve throughout the county area. So I didn't want people to see that York County's increasing water sewer rates. Our rates are being increased, and we're having to pass these rate increases on to our residential and commercial customers as well. So I wanted to make that boldly clear that York County don't own any well, we own Blue Granite, but this is not part of that. But the rate increase that we're seeing is being forced on us, and we're being forced to pass some of these rates on to our end users.
Thanks, sir. Any other discussion or questions? I would say to management, is there a reason why this was so late in the agenda? We've already had first reading on this, but can you explain why?
Rock Hill sent an original notice out that only had a 6.5% sewer increase and no water increase, and about 6 weeks after that, they apparently did some recalculation and we got another letter stating it would be 11% for water and 7.5% for sewer. So we were a little behind on getting this on the agenda, but it will be in effect in time for the next fiscal year.
Any other questions? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. We move now to item number 2 in old business. Council to consider second reading of an ordinance to establish operating and capital budgets for the operation of the county government of York County for the fiscal year commencing July 1st, 2023, to provide for the levy of taxes for York County for the fiscal year commencing July 1st, 2023, to provide for the expenditure of tax revenues and other county funds, and to provide for other fiscal matters relating to county government.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. I will say the public hearing is set for May 30th for any individuals who wish to come out and listen or speak or provide information to the county and the council regarding that. We move now to new business. Item number 1, council discussion regarding modifying the zoning code to increase the maximum building height in the general commercial district to 60 feet. And this was a discussion item that was requested originally back on April 17th by Councilman Huckabee, and so we put it on for discussion. If you'd like to start off with the discussion.
Sure. Thank you.
Sure.
So it appears in the past, and I don't have the exact details, but previous council voted to approve a 60-foot allowance for industrial properties, but we didn't include other properties. So hotels, as an example, in the municipal areas, for instance, Rock Hill and Fort Mill, they have a 60-foot maximum height for hotels or motels. And what I've learned is that some hotels like Hilton or Marriott and others may have height requirements so they can get the amount of rooms they need so they can potentially make the profit they need to earn off of those rooms. And if they get less, then they can't build. So the municipalities have a 60-foot, we have a 50-foot. But we do have a 60-foot on industrial. So what I'm requesting is that we assign this to committee, let the committee vet this and understand this more, consult with staff, and come back to council with a recommendation.
Mr. Roddy?
If we know that commercial is 60, hotels are 50, we don't have to really send this to committee. You know, for me, we could allow a commercial building to be 60 foot tall, why not a hotel? You know, obviously, like you mentioned, hotels have to have the number of rooms in order to meet their business model. At this point, you know, I haven't heard of any hotels saying, hey, if you give us 10 more feet, we're coming, or we haven't turned down any hotels. I'm not for it or against it. It's just a matter of, would this open the door for more hotels to come? Possibly, but we haven't turned down any hotels to this point who wanted 60 feet or who come to us and said, hey, you know, I'd like to build a hotel, but I just can't make it work with the 50-foot model that you have. So at this point, I guess I'm right down the middle. It really doesn't matter. If we were turning down hotels after hotels and we're saying we need more hotels, I could see the need, but I don't think 10 more feet would hurt the business. So I'm right down the middle on it.
If I could add a quick comment to what you're saying. So it hasn't come to us yet because it never made it past planning and zoning because we have that 50-foot maximum height requirement. So in the unincorporated areas, 50 feet, a hotel's not going to come in and build like they are in the municipal associations. So So we do have one that has not been built in the unincorporated area, and there's one pending right now. So it just makes sense to me personally, and this is why I think maybe send it to committee for further discussion, just to make sure we have thoroughly vetted this, that 60 does make sense in addition to industrial.
Yeah, so I got a couple quick questions. Is Jonathan here tonight, or David? He's not, okay. So has this been discussed, David, with planning at all? And if it is, if you know about it, is there anything that you can give us for your feedback in regards to this?
It has just been discussed at the staff level, and just point of clarification, I think Mr. Roddy mentioned, it's the industrial buildings that are allowed to be 60 feet, not commercial buildings. And this would apply to hotels and other commercial buildings. So industrial is allowed to be 60 feet. Commercial, which includes hotels, are allowed to be 50 feet. So that's the proposed change. Preliminarily, staff thinks that's reasonable and should be promoted to be consistent. However, we would suggest, as it runs through the process, going through 3 readings, a public hearing, and the Planning Commission, that staff would have additional opportunities to weigh in on the appropriateness of that. That would both be planning department as well as things like fire, public safety, as to whether that's appropriate.
Do you know off the top of your head if there's been many requests coming into zoning or ZBA for appeal to go up another floor, such as this?
Yeah, Diane Dill's representing the planning department here tonight. And I know we've had one, we've had 2 requests to go up to 60 feet, and have both of those been turned down so far?
If I may, we've had one actually come in right now for going to 60 feet. We have had 2 variances in the past that wanted to go above that 50-foot mark. So we have had requests for that to go higher. They went to the ZBA for variances for those 2.
What is the distinction there? Why make the distinction between industrial? I mean, if there's a fire issue at 60 feet, it's going to apply to industrial or to this. It seems to me that you would want to,
Yeah, it used to be 50 feet
if that hasn't been
for
fully vetted by
everything.
staff before we passed the first one, which is 60 feet, then I guess I want to make sure I understand staff's position on this.
Currently with Recode, it made industrial go to 60 feet. Everything else before that was 50 feet. And so we kept the commercial at 50 feet at that time. We just pushed up the industrial one. We've had people were requesting that, concerns for that. We went to 60 feet for industrial. Just never did it for commercial. And so we're being asked to do it now, or to consider it.
Okay. So by the sounds of it, we've had 1 or 2 that have come in the past, based on what you're saying. It doesn't sound like we've got a real track record of a lot of people asking for it, but, okay.
That's correct.
All right, thank you.
How many hotels have asked for it? Have we had any hotels?
We've had 2 that have had, for the 60-foot, just the one.
Just one, okay.
Just a comment from
Ms. Cloninger?
District 7 and up around the Carowinds area. We do have still a lot of concern with the quantity of hotels we have in the area up there and the amount of crime. This is coming from Tolson, Sheriff Tolson, not myself. So I would have concerns adding more rooms, a hotel that would add more rooms and add more problems to our situation at the border. So, yeah, I mean, it come to committee, you mean planning and zoning?
Yeah, I mean,
Planning and zoning?
this is a discussion. This is not, a motion or anything as that, but I think it is helpful for me as chair, especially when there's things that are not unanimous, for me to know, is there support for council to take a look at this? And I think a referral to the Planning and Zoning Committee would be the option here. I'm concerned that if there's 60 feet of industrial and we haven't fully vetted if the fire can accommodate that. Now, I've done some independent research to see if the ladders can reach that, but that's not me, that's not staff. If staff thinks it needs to be looked at, then I think the whole thing needs to be looked at. But I guess I need to get some feedback from referring it to a committee. It would be Ms. Cloninger's committee. Are you receptive to it come to your committee?
Yes.
Any other discussion on that?
The thought just came to my mind, if we went up to 60 feet on one and didn't consider 60 feet on the other, the same research probably could be used for, why did we go up 60 feet here and not 60 feet on the other one? The same, should be the same research. If 60 feet's good here, why wouldn't it be good over here? The only thing that comes to mind is that with a hotel, you have people spending the night versus any other facility, whether it's industrial, commercial, everything except hotel. You don't have people spending the night 6 floors up. You know, that could be the only difference with the hotel versus a traditional commercial or industrial building.
And I think a 60-foot allows for a 5-foot, not a 5-floor, not a 6-floor.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's the issue with some hotel chains. They won't come in unless they can put 5 floors in, so they can make the money that they're trying to make. You know, not this necessarily matters, but I'd had, a few months ago, I had someone in our district call me, actually, Allison, they were in your, Christy, sorry, they're in your district. And a 100-bed hotel pays $250,000 in property taxes in York County. A lot of money. So 4 stories versus 5 is a big difference to them when they look at just to carry the note of paying property taxes. It was actually $263,000. I think it was a 109-bed hotel. Half of that, of course, goes to the school. That's not county taxes, but anyway, it is significant. But I think, thank you for agreeing for that to go to your committee to review. I think that's important to vet anything, because we can't think of everything that we need to consider as we sit here tonight. So thank you.
Hearing no objections from any council members for this to at least go to committee, typically that would have been done before, but I think there was some questions about it. We'll refer that to planning and zoning, the entire kit and caboodle, and let you guys take a look at it. And I do think it's critically important that we reach out to the fire departments and find out the concerns there directly to them when you do that. All right. We move now to item number 2 under new business, council discussion regarding remote attendance to council meetings, workshops, and committee meetings. This is another item that was requested back on April 17th to be considered. I think that there was some question about whether there's council support to entertain that. So I'll let you start off, Mr. Huckabee, since you're the one who initiated that.
Thank you. Appreciate you putting it on the agenda tonight. So I want to read something first, and then I'll get to the ask, because the ask is really to assign this to committee as well, so committee can discuss it and vet it and think of things we're not going to even think about tonight. But, all right, I'm paraphrasing a quote from a former mayor, Gary McCaleb from Abilene, Texas. He said, "Whenever and wherever people gather to live and work, they experience tension between self-interest and the common good, between personal gain and mutual benefit. Shifting attention away from our self-interest and including others is essential to true community building." He emphasizes that the one common thread of a growing community is where the thoughts and ideas come from different people of varying ages, different cultures, and people with different life experiences. Otherwise, we are caught up in believing our ideas or the ideas of a few hand-selected people are broadly represented when in fact they are narrowly focused. Perhaps we as leaders should broaden our view, our stretch, our reach, and our influence by asking others to participate in sharing their input on impactful initiatives. So this issue that I'm about to bring up, I think, is an example of the last issue I brought up, the 50 versus 60. So I don't even know if this is appropriate, but I'm just curious, of the 6 of us on council, have all 6 of us been on a virtual call before?
Reluctantly.
Reluctantly.
I'm curious, have y'all been on at least 25 virtual calls before? Has anybody been on at least 25? No?
So, I mean,
I think maybe the most appropriate way for, I
Right.
don't want this to get ahead of us, and we still have a good bit of agenda. Let's let each council member have a comment.
All right, I'm getting ready to close out since I brought it to the table. So my ask is this. I'm asking that we consider to allow council members to attend a certain number of meetings virtually a year, not as an alternative to attending a meeting, but they cannot make a meeting, but they're passionate about attending a meeting virtually when they can't be here in person. So I'm asking for that to go to a committee to be discussed. Same thing for committee meetings and workshop meetings. I, for one, got elected to be present, and I'm willing to be present virtually if that I'm out of town the 23rd, I'm gonna miss a workshop, and I hate that. I missed a meeting because I was in Florida last week on business. It couldn't change. But if I had the option to attend and participate virtually for a set number of meetings a year, I would love that opportunity, not only for me, but everybody else on council.
So, go ahead.
Mr. Roddy?
I have a difference in opinion on this part. You know, I've been here for a long time, and obviously Zoom and some of these other methods have been around. You know, the ones I make, the ones I miss, whether it's work, whether it's anniversaries or family situations. You know, if it's not to say that it's not that important to scrap whatever else you're doing, but over the time I've been here, you come to realize that you're not going to make every single meeting. Yes, we were elected to be here, to be the voice for our district. The only time that I think it was totally acceptable and we still had some pushback from doing Zoom is when we had the Panther deal. That was the right thing to do, but it was the wrong thing to do because we caught so much flack, so much hell from doing that. And the pressure came in when we were participating in Zoom. The public has to be allowed to participate by Zoom. That creates a whole different bad precedent because now we can be seen as not allowing certain people to speak. You know, imagine if this meeting tonight was on Zoom, you would have people lined up from here and everywhere wanting to make a comment on that hot topic we just had. You know, I think it just presents a problem. If we can participate by Zoom, we also have to have an avenue for the public to participate by Zoom. And I think that presents a whole different challenge for us and it was a logistical nightmare just to do it for those 1 or 2 meetings that we had on Zoom. So listen in on Zoom, maybe participate by Zoom, vote by Zoom. I don't want to have to deal with that part. So I wouldn't be in favor of a council meeting being done by Zoom. If someone wanted to listen in on a workshop that we're having as a non-participant, just to kind of hear the conversation in the room versus going back listening to the tape later. But I think we open ourselves up for a tremendous, something that we don't want to have to deal with if we allow us to participate in the public. Because we can't have one without the other. I don't think we can say council members can participate, but we won't have a Zoom avenue for people to call in or to be present. Otherwise, I like seeing faces in the chamber. I like sitting up here. That's part of what this is all about, being present. And sometimes people can hide behind a Zoom meeting but here, your comments are public, your face is public. You wear your good comments, you wear your bad comments. And I think this is the arena for us to be as much as possible. You know, no one intends to miss a meeting, but it's gonna happen. It won't be the end of the world. I think I've already missed 1 or 2 meetings this year. It's just the nature of the beast, and I can't see opening us up to people suing for anything nowadays. As soon as we have a meeting, someone feels like they weren't able to participate, we got a lawsuit because their First Amendment wasn't protected to speak at a meeting or something. So I would like to stay away from opening us up to Zoom meetings. Unless we get hit with a pandemic again and we have no choice but to stay at home.
Yeah. So just a real quick comment in regards to this. You know, there's county council meetings it's critical to me, and I think it's critical to all of us, that we have an opportunity to people to come in the room that we're in person. And we get a chance to meet in person. And that means a lot. I think it means a lot to our community, means a lot to the discussion of things. And in that face-to-face communication, I think is very powerful and very important, you know, as a council member and as a public, that we're all together in one room. I wouldn't be in support of doing any type of council meeting by Zoom. I think it opens up some of the things that you stated, and the whole component behind it is we're gonna miss out on what we have going on currently tonight and having the discussions we have, and that's face to face. I think that's really important. As far as committee meetings and that stuff, I think listening into a committee meeting, it probably may be something we can discuss. I think when it comes to doing any type of vote, even in a committee meeting, I think it becomes a little bit of a suspect, I think, and challenge to it. So I would be a little concerned around that avenue, but I'm open for discussions around the committee component.
Just to be clear, so you would support a committee, council members being able to participate in committee?
I'd support,
Just not a vote?
I would support discussion around
Okay.
that.
Okay.
Yeah, just
Thanks.
discussion, yeah.
As
Ms.
far as
Collinger.
the meetings are concerned, I really feel very strong that, you know, I was elected to be present at our council meetings, and I do, I'm not a big fan of Zoom meetings, and anybody that has been with me in a Zoom meeting knows that I have some issues there. But anyway, so I'm not in favor of our meetings being in Zoom. I would possibly we could discuss the workshops and so forth, but pretty much no on Zooms.
You're open to a workshop? I just want to make sure I'm clear when we get to the next
On
point.
workshop, a discussion of a possibility, not my favorite thing.
Okay.
Yeah, I kind of got the same sentiments as Tom, but I would like to ask Kevin and them, how much would that add as far as technical to pulling that off?
I would say it could be done. It's in the doable but difficult is how I'd categorize it. And I think to Bump's point, the participation from the public is going to be the most challenging to be able to offer the same ability for them to participate as they can here in the council chambers.
All right, so that we round this out,
Can I make one more comment? Is that okay?
let me make mine and then we'll,
Okay.
well, I don't mind. You brought this up. Here's your chance.
So this is another example of just what I read a minute ago from the mayor, former mayor of Texas. If we went around a room and asked everybody their opinion on this, we're going to get a different perspective from everybody. And when it came back around, we would probably all feel a little differently about our opinion, or at least we'd have some basis to believe or not believe or support or not support something. That's why I'm saying send it to committee and let it be vetted, and all three could be vetted differently. You know, the council meeting, the workshop, and the committee could be vetted differently. I use virtual every day. I'm on probably 25 virtual meetings a week. And some of what your concerns are, it's very easy to overcome. Technology has come a long way in the last 3 years. This is not to replace any of us from coming to a meeting or replace the citizens from being a part of a meeting. It's just an option to allow a council member to participate in a meeting if they choose to. Obviously, if they're going to avoid it, they're going to be here. I'm going to be here. I'd rather be here present than virtual, but it clearly can be done. Thank you.
So I think the discussion is good. I think it's good to have these discussions. Council meetings are different. Council is where you take a vote. So workshops and committees, anything that happens there, it has to come back to council. So I view those as more of due diligence. But with council meetings, there's no surprise when those are set. And those are the first and third Monday of each month, unless it's a holiday and then it rolls over to the next day. So there's no surprise with that. I think I would echo the rest of the council members. And it seems to me, and one of the items when your chair trying to figure out whether to refer something to a committee, if there's not a majority of council that wants to take a look at it, then there's no point in referring it to a committee. Y'all have to tell me if I'm wrong here, but what I'm hearing from council is a clear majority that does not have any interest in council meetings being, regardless of even I had a different opinion, the majority of council is not interested in having the council meetings open for Zoom meeting. And I think I would echo that. If I've heard that wrong, I'd ask that you speak up right now. I do think the constituency expects you to be here in person, transparent, and accessible to the meetings. I think remote Zoom meetings can be difficult with technology failures, especially if you try to figure out quorum and how to compromise that. It makes minutes difficult to take. We do have a mechanism in place that allows us to do emergencies. COVID is pretty much over, so that emergency is moved out of its way, but if we had to reinstitute it, we could. We also have a mechanism that allows council to suspend the rules in very rare cases of emergency. that requires a quorum being present to begin with, and a super majority of the council would have to vote to allow that to happen. So when it comes to the council meeting votes, it sounds to me like there's not the will of council to have that issue discussed any further. I am wondering about the committees, though. I want to make sure I'm clear on that. What I heard from council members is that maybe you would allow some discussion about having some participation in the meetings, but any votes as to recommendations. Again, with committee meetings and workshops, anything that goes through that still has to come to council for another meeting. So I don't view that as necessarily, if you have to be here in person for the council meeting, it can get addressed then, and you still have accountability to the public on that. I think that if anything, that could be brought back or referred. Does anybody hear anything different than I did?
No. No.
Okay. Then, you brought this up. Is that sufficient enough to consider a workshop? At least just take that consideration. So the next step would be, whose committee would that fall under? I've looked this up. I have to look all these rules up. In law school, the lawyers always said, read the rule. You got to go back and read the rule. As I look at the standing committees, it looks like Justice and Public Safety is the one that deals with council rules and regulations. That's your committee, Mr. Atkins.
The only zooming I do is revving a tractor up.
Now, I don't know that we need to do that. You can also just take it up but if there's going to be any discussion in the committee, that would be yours.
We'll accept it.
All right. Well, it's limited to the situation of workshops, non-voting. Can you participate? And that still has to go through the same process. It has to go through the committee, just like all of these. It has to come forward with before the council is some sort of ordinance change. Any other discussion on that?
No. Thank you.
We don't, not in discussion. It would be only to refer it to committee for consideration. And it's limited in its consideration. All right. We move now to item number 3 under new business. Council to approve acceptance of grant funding from the South Carolina Rural Infrastructure Authority in the amount of $10 million under the South Carolina Infrastructure Investment Program.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
So was this funding that we're receiving on this, Kevin? Was this funding that was allocated in 2022 that we're just receiving now in 2023, or how?
We are receiving funds. This is the state distributing their ARPA funds that they had received.
This was ARPA from here? Okay. Because it's mentioned in the fall of 2022, and then, so is this the estimated allocation based on what we had qualified for under this project from ARPA?
Yes, sir. There was a application process. We submitted the application. We're fortunate enough to be awarded these funds, and I want to give a shout out and appreciation to our local delegation for helping to make sure we receive these funds.
Yeah, I agree. I second that. Thank you, sir.
All right. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. We move now to item number 4, council to approve award regarding RFP 2844 for the replacement of York County's geographic information system consisting of York County parcels to Atlas Geographic Data, Inc. of Wilmington, North Carolina for a total cost not to exceed $475,500 as part of the coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery funds. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? I know that any other discussion from anybody else? I know that I brought up a request of Chuck Horton to take a look at the iPhone capability of the access to the GIS information. I caught him as we walked into the building. He said he was going to take a look at that because I'm getting some feedback that it's not only me that's having trouble accessing it, especially on the phone when you're out with a constituent, to be able to pull up a parcel and be able to identify what jurisdiction, who's the political person, what's the road name. So I'm hoping that that's looked at. And these funds come out of the coronavirus fiscal recovery funds. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Move now to item number 5. Council to approve first reading by title only of an ordinance to amend the Code of County of York, South Carolina, disposal of waste at county landfill, Chapter 33, Sections 50.02 and 50.33B and E, in order to define primary residence, to provide for an increase in fees for the disposal of municipal solid waste, construction and demolition debris and land clearing debris at the county landfill, to remove fees for clean concrete, brick, block, and asphalt, to revise the fee exemption provision, and to provide for other matters related thereto.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Mr. Roddy?
People from the comment, I apologize. So we're dropping the fee for clean bricks and concrete? Is that what we're doing?
Management, if you want to speak up, my understanding is that this is the fees that are the municipal fees, and the actual contractor fees
Yeah,
are rising.
Mr. Roddy, I'll try to answer the very high level. Mr. Moore, get more detail. We are taking up the fees to account for the expenses we've been incurring. We are still going to be the lowest in the area across the board on these. This will not impact individuals going out there to the landfill. There's a limitation on how many tons you can bring out there. That's the only thing that will actually impact individual homes.
Because it says to remove fees for clean concrete, brick, block, and asphalt.
I'll let Mr. Moore get into that detail.
That's why I asked where we're lowering the fees.
Yeah, the plan is to increase the tipping fees for municipal solid waste, construction and demolition, and land clearing, debris, and brush. Those 3 categories of fees.
This is first reading,
Correct.
and these fees are the ones that are geared towards the commercial increase.
Correct. The municipal solid waste will largely affect the municipalities who bring their solid waste to York County Transfer Station, where it gets taken to Columbia for disposal,
And
as
that-
well as construction and demolition.
Thank you,
for
Mike. I
contractors.
understand that even with these increases in fees, it is still less than any other of the competitors who
correct.
follow the rules.
That's correct.
Thank you,
Yes.
sir.
Is that measured on tonnage?
I think it is, Wade.
Yes, those tipping fees are based on weight. Yeah.
And just for clarification, these are not the issues that were brought up to the Public Works Committee. Those are separate
Those are
issues.
separate
Being
issues.
handled totally separately, have different issues.
As related to the convenience and recycling centers, those are separate issues.
And we have a workshop coming up.
We
on
do.
that.
We're working that schedule right now for you.
All right. Any other discussion or questions from council?
No.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Committee and other reports. We do not have any other committee reports to provide. We move now to citizen concerns. Josh Malkin with ACLU to address council regarding books in the public library.
Good evening. My name is Josh Malkin. I'm the Senior Advocacy Strategist for the ACLU of South Carolina. The ACLU is the nation's oldest organization dedicated to protecting Americans' constitutional and civil rights. First of all, thank you all for your public service. I've been to enough county council meetings around the state, heard enough rants about roads. I know you all don't get the praise you all deserve, so I appreciate your heed to call the public service. I'm here this evening to share our office's concerns surrounding comments made at the last board meeting regarding relocating children's books featuring LGBTQ characters. I'd like to first share my concerns with some of the comments I heard earlier today, and then go into some of the legal analysis. I think we're more and more in an age where folks can't hear each other, right? It's fundamentally American to disagree, and we can't listen to folks that we disagree with. So what I heard tonight, under the guise of sexually inappropriate, sexually explicit, whatever words were used, were actually 2 distinct arguments. I think there were folks saying that they think any depiction of gay or trans characters is sexually explicit. There is nothing more sexual about a book featuring a gay or a trans child than there is about a book featuring a straight or a cisgender kid. I think that language is harmful. And I would encourage folks to speak to gay or trans kids and their families to understand even the harm that rhetoric causes. The second thing I heard is sexually explicit material, right? Books that actually contain sexual imagery, what have you. And it's a completely different argument politically. It's a completely different argument legally. But 2 points to make in the defense of having those books where they are on shelves. Just as parents are the experts when it comes to what their children can read, we need to trust and believe that our librarians are the experts when it comes to curating our libraries. As this rhetoric ramps up, librarians are tragically being subjected to more and more vicious attacks. So I'd hope that this council and the library board, which I'll also make sure I get my comments to, can really take heed of that and do what y'all can to respect and defend the safety of your librarians. The second point when it comes to actually sexually explicit content is I've been around the state hearing these same talking points, listening to the same animus. There are young women around the state who speak to how books provided a safe place for them after they survived sexual violence, right? That's often a time when young women don't feel comfortable speaking to other people, and they found that comfort, they found that solace, they navigate their grief and their trauma through a book. And again, this was said earlier, if you are a parent who perceives either type of book to be a threat, you have the opportunity always to opt your child out of that book, always. And now, if I will, I'll just go into sort of the legal analysis of restricting access of books that just feature queer characters. Dear members of the York County Council, I write to share our concerns regarding suggested efforts to ban or restrict access to certain books. Governmental imposition of censorship requirements in public libraries violates the United States Constitution and South Carolina's Code of Laws. Moreover, South Carolina has systems in place to review books that are in public libraries and has expertly trained librarians entrusted with these responsibilities. Our librarians are specialists in their field and deserve our confidence and trust they have the best interest of all South Carolinians in mind. The Supreme Court has been clear that censorship of books in school libraries is de facto unconstitutional. The court held over 40 years ago that local school boards may not remove books from the school library shelves simply because they dislike the ideas contained in those books. The special characteristics of the school library make that environment especially appropriate for the recognition of First Amendment rights of students. The court continues, just as access to ideas makes it possible for citizens generally to exercise their rights of free speech and press in a meaningful manner, such access prepares students for active and effective participation in the pluralistic, often contentious society in which they will soon be adult members. In light of the special role of the school library as a place where students may freely and voluntarily explore diverse topics, a school board's non-curricular decision to remove a book well after it had been placed in the public school libraries evokes the question whether that action might not be an unconstitutional attempt to strangle the free mind at its source. I know we're not here about schools. The principles set forth in PICO, a school library case, have even greater force when applied to public libraries. The government cannot limit access to library materials solely on the basis of the content of those materials unless the government can demonstrate that the restriction is necessary to achieve a compelling government interest and there are no less restrictive alternatives for achieving that interest. I will tell you right now, wanting to protect children from queer characters is not a compelling government interest. The First Amendment's prohibition on viewpoint-based censorship of library books includes the prohibition on viewpoint-based censorship of books that express support for lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender people. So I don't write legally that often, so I'm trying to get through some parentheses. Books or materials that focus on gender and sexual identity cannot be censored simply because they may run afoul of certain social values. The Supreme Court has held that a school board violated the First Amendment when they intended by their removal decision to deny students access to ideas with which the board members disagreed, and this intent was the decisive factor in the school board's decision. Again, I'll remind you that a public library has a higher level of scrutiny than a school board. Further, the doctrine of unconstitutional conditions posits that if the government is prohibited from directly limiting the exercise of constitutional rights in a given situation, the government may not achieve the same result indirectly by offering benefits subject to the condition that the recipients waive their constitutional rights. That is, governments cannot circumvent constitutional violations by offering incentives or threatening financial penalties to institutions in order to achieve the desired result. We have received reports that politicians around the state have threatened to withhold critical funding from county libraries unless these libraries comply with an unconstitutional infringement on their right to facilitate the First Amendment right to free exchange of information. In addition, Even where a regulation does not silence speech altogether, the Supreme Court has given the most exacting scrutiny to regulations that suppress disadvantage or impose differential burdens upon speech because of its content. Therefore, requiring library goers to ask an employee or secure parental permission in order to access certain titles is an unconstitutional restriction on the freedom to access information. In determining the unconstitutionality of book censorship in PICO, the Supreme Court also emphasized that the school board failed to use established, regular, and facially unbiased procedures for reviewing the books and ignored the advice of literary experts, the views of librarians, and teachers within the school system, the advice of the superintendent of schools, and the guidance of publications that rate books for junior and senior high school students. Local, ideologically based censorship likely supersedes and ignores the established, regular, unbiased procedures of South Carolina librarians. We write to voice our strong opposition to library censorship and offer our partnership in fighting against the effort to censor children's access to information. Thank you for your prompt attention to this matter. And again, I'll say, I'm here to defend all speech, right? I'm the American Civil Liberties Union. We are here to defend all speech. If there is a book called She is She, while I may view that book as being harmful, I would also be here saying that that book cannot be censored from library shelves. And I just say that's why the law exists, right? We are going to disagree about issues that inflare passions on both sides, and that is why the law and the Constitution exists. So I'm just here to outline, the constitutional concerns and the constitutional guidelines around library censorship. I have copies of this letter, and I heard you don't ask any questions.
No, we don't, but
Okay.
you can circulate whatever information you want the council to consider. You can give it to our clerk to council at the
Perfect.
end of the board, and she can circulate it to us.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, sir. Just for purposes of clarification, I will add once again, county council does not decide what books get placed on the shelves at the library. That would be handled by the director and the board of trustees. They have a meeting this week. You can go on the website and you can find out when they meet and make sure that your comments are directed towards them. There's also no motion pending or other action pending before council as to defunding the library. Moving now to council member new non-agenda comments.
Yeah.
Mr. Audette.
Yes. First of all, I want to thank everybody tonight, for their time and for sharing your thoughts on this topic tonight. Thank you. I continue and have received several examples from the public in regards to books that the public has concerns with. There's many examples, but there's a couple I do want to share with you tonight that the public has shared with me. So I'm going to start off with this first one here. This book is called Jack, Not Jackie. Okay, this was shared by the public with me in regards to their concerns. And what they had sent to me was online comments about the book, and I'm just going to read those online comments to you. Highly controversial subject, need to be taught by the parent first. May be confusing, it's a sexual topic, and it's an adult theme. All right. The next book. This book was also sent to me by the public, or shared with me by the public, and I want to go ahead and share with you some of the content inside the book here. And this book is called You Be You, The Guide to Gender, Sexuality, and Family. Okay? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and start off on page 15. I don't know if y'all can see that. This book is for the age of 5 and up. On here is a naked picture drawing of a naked man fully exposed, a naked woman fully exposed. Okay, let me flip to the next page. All right, so we're on page 16. On this page, you've got a naked man, a drawing of a naked man, a drawing of a naked woman, and a young adult naked. Okay, again, this is a book that is noted for kids 5 and above. Okay. The next page. Partially naked man, partially naked woman drawing. Again, this is what the public has shared with me, and I'm just sharing it with y'all. Okay. All right. The next thing on page 22. Okay. From the book, It says a person's sex, what kind of body they have, doesn't decide their gender identity, how they see themselves. So whether you have a male body, a female body, or any intersex body, you might yourself be a boy or a girl or a different gender, like genderqueer, non-gender binary, and that's fine. Again, I'm putting this out on display. The public sent this to me, okay, and I'm just sharing it with you, okay? I do want to share a comment. I've shared last time I had spoke, I showed a comment from a parent that had sent an email to me. I want to share one other. I am a York County resident. Again, this email came to me. A mother of 5. My children and I frequent the Lake Wiley Library in the past, and we have encountered children's books that I believe are inappropriate for children. These books are not only cover diverse topics, but are sexualizing children. Again, comments shared to me by the public. In closing, the public has requested, okay? The public has requested that they have requested the York County Library to all gender books, gender identity books, such as these, which I've shared here, along with a whole list of other books they've listed out on gender, what they consider gender identity books, to be moved to the adult section of the York County Library. That way, if a parent wants their children to read these books, then the parents will have the decision to do that, and that would end up being the parent's choice. Thank you for your time tonight. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Council member, non-agenda comments. Mr. Roddy.
I just wanted to give a quick update on, I don't know if you all remember, a little over a year, maybe going on a year and a half ago, we had a lady come, her name was Kim Gaffney, did a presentation on a gentleman by the name of Willie Mason Chisholm. His grave was located on a piece of property in Rock Hill, and she did some research on him and found out that he played a significant role in the community of putting in water lines for the community, driving a bus for black kids to school. We are in the middle of recognizing his grave and his gravesite. I've been working with the Historical Society and the York County Museum and our historians we were approved for historical marker. And we're working with the city as well as the county to be able to place that marker as close to that gravesite as possible. And it's a two-sided historical marker that lists some major accomplishments that he contributed to the community over his short lifespan. He was brutally murdered. We have a copy of his death certificate. He was shot in the back of the head. A lot of other things that were going on during those times. But we're getting close to actually wrapping this up. We've hit a snag with the city as well as the county to give us a good location to be able to hang this historical marker. We're looking at probably hopefully September or October to be able to have a presentation, unveil it, but we're trying to work through some logistical things with the city of Rock Hill. And I'd be remiss if I didn't weigh in on what we saw here tonight with for the books, against the books. You know, it takes a lot of courage to come out and stand at this podium, be in public, for something or even against it. But I think one thing that we're really missing, the underlying tone, is that we're putting more people of the LGBTQIA community at risk. We're putting our librarians at risk. Even these conversations in this chamber, when one side was talking, I could see everybody's face. And if you were for something and the person was speaking against it, you had a look on your face. If you was against it and somebody was speaking for it, you had a look on your face. These topics are going to divide this community. It's going to shed light on people who probably are real vulnerable during this time. And I just hate to see this kind of conversation being had in an arena that we can't do anything about. It's been noted that we don't get to decide where the books are. That's on the library director. You know, people have said you should hold back their funding. That's not what this body is going to do. I wouldn't support that. But we got to remember, we have laws, we have rules that were put in place long before us that we're living by now. And I've had this discussion at work. I've had it at home. One of the most vulnerable places kids, parents, anybody, not going into the library, you get more here than you're going to get on the shelf at a library. And nobody's talking about doing something on the internet and all those kind of things. But it's still the right of that parent. I don't care if the book's in the children's section or the adult section. I don't see 3, 4, 5-year-olds just walking into a public library without a parent who's going to be their guardian, who's going to guide them to what's appropriate. And if that child picks up a book or is interested in a book and that parent doesn't feel it's appropriate, that parent is on site. And I made this comment to a gentleman before this meeting. We're going down a slippery slope if we're starting to try to decide things that replaces parenting. That's not what I ran for, and I don't think anybody up here would have ever put on their campaign literature that I will support taking your right away as a parent for your child to decide what's appropriate, what's not appropriate. That's not what we run for. We're here for your local government to make sure we run an efficient government, take care of the citizens, and things that the government can take care of. I don't want to get into doing things that takes your right away or anybody's right as a parent. When you walk into that door of that library as a parent with your child, you have the ultimate right to decide what your child picks up or puts down or have access to. So let's don't hide behind, let's protect our children. When you get certain groups of people that says, I don't like this, I want to change this, but the law says, change the law if you want to change something, but that's not why I sit up here. I'm not interested in telling our library director, move these books or we're going to cut your funding. That's not on the table. But what I am concerned about is the separation, the segregation that this is going to do just by the public comment section. It's dividing, it's not bringing us together. It's showing that you should be over here because you think a certain way. I should be over here because I think a certain way. We got to start listening more to each other. Someone made the comment, everybody's talking and nobody's listening. You know, somebody who needs to read those kind of books, need to read those kind of books whenever it's appropriate for that family and that parent, that child to make that decision. And this balloons over into several bigger decisions that people in Columbia are making, people in Washington are making when it comes to a woman, her health choices. That's not what we need to be involved with. I dare sit up here and try to tell anybody, male, female, what's appropriate for them and their child, their bodies, their household. Let's make sure we are directing our comments to the appropriate body. And I think our chairwoman did a good job of saying, go to the board, the library board, have that discussion with them. It's not that we're not concerned, but this is not the right body to have that discussion. Please, ma'am, please, sir, try to make sure you reach the right body, the right people, the right ears to have those discussions. And it's our job to hire a library director, but that's on them. And I fully trust librarians across everywhere who've given their time to do the research, because we have people who haven't been into a public library in 50 years. Now all of a sudden trying to tell libraries how to operate. That's not how this works. You know, you don't tell your doctor how to operate when you haven't gone to med school. Let's try to be reasonable what we're asking people to do. And I saw the looks on people's faces tonight that just says where we are as a community. Let's respect each other's views. Can we agree to disagree on some things and that be okay? But some people feel like it's my opinion and it has to be this way. You know, we all have kids, we all have things that we're passionate about, but if you can't respect people's views and opinions, take a look in the mirror and see who you are, because everybody's not the same, everybody don't feel the same. We don't even vote the same up here. But at the end of the day, we do our job and we respect each other. And at the end of the day, that's what it should be about. Respect those who don't think, act, or even look like you. And that's my comment for today, and I hope my comments are well received, because we should be inclusive. We should be inclusive, but we have people who want to be divisive, who don't want everybody to live, laugh, and have happiness. That's what it's all about. And we try to provide that with the things that we're doing to bring to this community. Some people don't like what we're doing, but this is a public forum. We're your elected officials, and we're here to do a job that we're charged with doing, but I don't like it when things come to us that we can't do anything about. And we've had that happen time and time again. It's not that we don't care about those issues. It's just this body doesn't get to decide those issues. And that's my comment.
Any other non-agenda comments, council? Anyone else? I want to thank the folks for showing up tonight. Thank you for speaking up. I actually thought that it was pretty good decorum. I just wish we were the right body for you to make those comments too. So, library board has a meeting Thursday, I believe. Send your comments to them. Make sure that you're heard on the issue.
They don't have a meeting?
I was told it was rescheduled. You can go on the York County Library website, and, I'm sorry, the 28th? June 8th. All right, there's a meeting June 8th. I know that this posted on the York County Library. All right, so I'm getting conflicting information. This is what I'll say to you. Go to the library board of trustees, be heard there. That's the appropriate venue for you to have those comments. If you go on the website, you can find that. Do we have a motion for executive session?
Yes, contractual matter, no trespassing agreement with Fort Mill Police Department. Contractual matter, receipt of legal advice, Project Freedom, Project 1, and Project Freedom 2.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, we will start executive session in the back in 5 minutes. Thank you. Second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, we are adjourned.